right next to him.
That's where I belong.
You are a vile human being with a gaping hole in your heart.
Is that anyway?
A single confession shatters two powerful families forever. Leslie's explosive revelations don't just expose long-buried secrets, they rewrite the entire history of the Duprees and Richardsons. Nothing at Fairmont Crest will ever be the same again. The question isn't who will survive the fallout, but who among them was ever truly innocent. In the closing moments of episode 46, the carefully constructed facade of Fairmont Crest's elite began crumbling. At Garland Memorial Hospital, Nicole and Ted Richardson's marriage reached its breaking point after she discovered text messages suggesting his involvement with Eva. Their heated confrontation in the hospital corridor left both questioning if their relationship could survive another betrayal. Meanwhile, a bombshell dropped when Leslie's recorded confession mysteriously surfaced, suggesting Eva had been framed for a crime she didn't commit. The recording, now in Danny's possession, contained revelations that threatened to implicate several Fairmont Crest residents. Across town, Derek and Ashley made the painful decision to live separately after weeks of mounting tension, their tearful goodbye contrasting sharply with the determined look on Ashley's face once alone. And in a storyline that's been building for weeks, Anita Dupree received an unexpected call about a potential reunion of her former singing group, the Articulettes, forcing her to confront a past she's long tried to forget. Especially with Tracy, her former rival, spearheading the reunion efforts. As episode 46 closed, Leslie stood alone in her apartment, staring at a mysterious old photograph, whispering, "It's time they all knew the truth." As episode 47 opens, we find each character at a critical emotional crossroads, their lives about to be forever altered by Leslie's revelations. Anita Dupree, the family matriarch portrayed by Tamara Tooney, begins the episode in her elegant home office, surrounded by family photos that now seem to mock her carefully constructed legacy. The potential Articulettes reunion has reopened old wounds, but it's merely a distraction from her deeper fear that the foundation of respect and admiration she's built in Fairmont Crest could crumble overnight. When the episode opens, we see her fingers trembling slightly as she reaches for her morning tea, a rare moment of vulnerability for this usually composed woman. What Anita wants most is preservation of her family's status, her marriage, and, most importantly, certain secrets she believes are better left buried. Vernon Dupree, played by the distinguished Clifton Davis, begins episode 47 in his study, reviewing documents from his senatorial days. The retired politician carries himself with the practiced dignity of a man accustomed to public scrutiny, but today there's a heaviness to his movements. Vernon fears becoming irrelevant, both in the community he once served and within his own family. What he doesn't yet realize is that Leslie's revelations will force him to confront not just his political legacy, but his personal one as well. The episode opens for him with a phone call from an old colleague warning him that something big is coming, a cryptic message that leaves Vernon visibly unsettled. Nicole Dupree-Richardson, the eldest Dupree daughter portrayed by Daphne Duplay, starts the episode in her psychiatrist's office. But today she's not seeing patients. Instead, she sits alone, reviewing her own marriage notes as if her professional training might somehow help her diagnose what went wrong with Ted. The irony isn't lost on her. The woman who helps others navigate their emotional lives now finds herself emotionally adrift. Nicole fears being made a fool of again, but what she wants most is clarity. About Ted's fidelity, about Ava's involvement in their lives, and about whether her marriage is worth saving. When we first see her, she's composed but fragile, like fine crystal on the edge of a table. Danny Dupree, the younger Dupree daughter played by Carla Mosley, begins episode 47, pacing her apartment, Leslie's recorded confession playing on repeat as she tries to process its implications. The former model has always lived somewhat in her sister's shadow, but Leslie's recording has given her something potentially explosive, information that could reshape family dynamics. Danny fears being dismissed, as she often has been, but she also fears the responsibility of being the bearer of devastating news. What she wants is recognition and to prove herself as more than just the pretty one. The episode opens for her with a decision whether to share the recording with her family or investigate further on her own. Ted Richardson, Nicole's husband, portrayed by Keith D. Robinson, starts the episode in his plastic surgery practice, mechanically going through patient files while his mind is clearly elsewhere. The successful doctor has built a reputation on perfecting appearances, an irony not lost on viewers as his own carefully constructed image threatens to collapse. Ted fears exposure, not just of his possible indiscretions with Eva, but of deeper secrets that Leslie's confession might bring to light. What he wants is damage control and a chance to explain himself to Nicole before it's too late. When we first see him, he's checking his phone obsessively, waiting for a call back from Leslie that never comes. Martin Richardson, Nicole and Ted's son, played by Brandon Claiborne, begins the episode in his congressional office, where his ambitious political career mirrors his grandfather Vernon's path. The young congressman fears scandal above all else, anything that might derail his meteoric rise in politics. What Martin wants is distance from whatever family drama is unfolding, but Leslie's revelations will make that impossible. The episode opens for him with an aide bringing news of unusual social media activities surrounding his family, the first ripple of what will become a tidal wave. Kat Richardson, Nicole and Ted's daughter, portrayed by Colby Mohammed, starts episode 47 in her college dorm room, surrounded by textbooks but distracted by family text messages hinting at trouble. Unlike her brother, Kat has always been more emotionally invested in family matters. She fears the dissolution of her parents' marriage and the shattering of her family unit. What she wants is harmony and truth, even if that truth is painful. When we first see her, she's debating whether to come home from college early, sensing that something significant is about to happen. Bill Hamilton, Danny's ex-husband, played by Timon Kyle Durrett, begins the episode at his law office, reviewing divorce papers from another client while reflecting on his own failed marriage. Bill fears irrelevance in Danny's life, especially as new developments pull the Dupree family closer together. What he wants is a second chance, though he'd never admit it openly. The episode opens for him with a surprising call from Danny, the first in months, asking cryptically if he still has those files from when he briefly represented Leslie years ago. Leslie herself, the catalyst for the episode's drama, begins in a moment of calm resolve. After years of carrying secrets that weren't hers to bear, she fears nothing now. Not retribution, not isolation, not even death. What Leslie wants is simple: justice and truth, regardless of the cost. The episode opens for her as she methodically prepares multiple copies of her confession, addressing envelopes to each member of the Dupree and Richardson families. There's a peaceful finality to her movements, as if completing a long-delayed mission. Ted Richardson, Nicole's husband, portrayed by Keith D. Robinson, starts the episode in his plastic surgery practice, mechanically going through patient files while his mind is clearly elsewhere. The successful doctor has built a reputation on perfecting appearances, an irony not lost on viewers as his own carefully constructed image threatens to collapse. Ted fears exposure, not just of his possible indiscretions with Eva, but of deeper secrets that Leslie's confession might bring to light. What he wants is damage control and a chance to explain himself to Nicole before it's too late. When we first see him, he's checking his phone obsessively, waiting for a call back from Leslie that never comes. Martin Richardson, Nicole and Ted's son, played by Brandon Claiborne, begins the episode in his congressional office, where his ambitious political career mirrors his grandfather Vernon's path. The young congressman fears scandal above all else, anything that might derail his meteoric rise in politics. What Martin wants is distance from whatever family drama is unfolding, but Leslie's revelations will make that impossible. The episode opens for him with an aide bringing news of unusual social media activity surrounding his family, the first ripple of what will become a tidal wave. Kat Richardson, Nicole and Ted's daughter, portrayed by Colby Mohammed, starts episode 47 in her college dorm room, surrounded by textbooks but distracted by family text messages hinting at trouble. Unlike her brother, Kat has always been more emotionally invested in family matters. She fears the dissolution of her parents' marriage and the shattering of her family unit. What she wants is harmony and truth, even if that truth is painful. When we first see her, she's debating whether to come home from college early, sensing that something significant is about to happen. Bill Hamilton, Danny's ex-husband, played by Timon Kyle Durrett, begins the episode at his law office, reviewing divorce papers from another client while reflecting on his own fail. Bill fears irrelevance in Danny's life, especially as new developments pull the Dupree family closer together. What he wants is a second chance, though he'd never admit it openly. The episode opens for him with a surprising call from Danny, the first in months, asking cryptically if he still has those files from when he briefly represented Leslie years ago. Leslie herself, the catalyst for the episode's drama, begins in a moment of calm resolve. After years of carrying secrets that weren't hers to bear, she fears nothing now. Not retribution, not isolation, not even death. What Leslie wants is simple: justice and truth, regardless of the cost. The episode opens for her as she methodically prepares multiple copies of her confession, addressing envelopes to each member of the Dupree and Richardson families. There's a peaceful finality to her movements, as if completing a long-delayed mission. Eva, whose name has been mentioned throughout the series but whose role remains mysterious, doesn't appear physically at the episode's opening. Yet her presence looms large as the person allegedly framed for a crime she didn't commit. What Eva fears and wants remains unknown to viewers, creating an intriguing void that Leslie's confession will begin to fill. As episode 47 truly begins, these characters, each with their own fears, desires, and secrets, are about to collide in ways that will permanently alter the landscape of Fairmont Crest. The stage is set not just for revelations, but for a fundamental questioning of who these people really are beneath their carefully maintained veneers. The episode begins with a striking aerial shot of Fairmont Crest at dawn, the gated community still and peaceful in the early morning light. This tranquility serves as an ironic counterpoint to the chaos about to unfold. The camera slowly zooms in on Leslie's modest apartment on the community's edge, where she's finishing her task of preparing multiple envelopes. In the first scene, Leslie places a final letter in an envelope marked Anita and Vernon Dupree, seals it with deliberate care, and adds it to a stack of similar envelopes. She picks up the phone and makes a call to a local courier service, requesting same-day delivery of the packages. "It's urgent," she says, her voice steady despite the weight of her decision. "These need to be delivered by noon." As she ends the call, she looks at an old photograph, the same one from the end of episode 46, showing a much younger Anita, Vernon, and another woman whose face is partially obscured. Leslie touches the unknown woman's image gently. "I'm doing this for you," she whispers. The scene shifts to the Dupree mansion, where Anita and Vernon are having breakfast on their sunlit terrace. Their conversation about the potential Articulettes reunion is interrupted when Vernon's phone rings. It's his old colleague, Senator James Whitfield, with a cryptic warning. "Vernon, there's chatter about some kind of revelation involving your family. I don't have details, but I thought you should know." Vernon thanks him calmly, but once the call ends, he exchanges a worried glance with Anita. "It could be nothing," he says unconvincingly. Anita's response is telling. "In Fairmont Crest, it's never nothing." Their decades of marriage have taught them to read between the lines of such warnings. Meanwhile, at Nicole and Ted's home, the tension is palpable as they move around each other in cold silence, the aftermath of their hospital confrontation still raw. Ted attempts reconciliation. "Nicole, we need to talk about those texts." "It's not what you think." Nicole's response is clinical, detached. Her psychiatrist's demeanor, a shield for her pain. "What I think is that you're following a pattern, Ted. one that's become exhaustingly predictable. Their standoff is interrupted by the doorbell, a courier with an envelope from Leslie. Nicole signs for it, puzzled, as Ted watches with growing unease. Across town, Danny is meeting with her ex-husband, Bill, at his law office, an unusual reunion prompted by Leslie's recording. "You represented Leslie in that property dispute 3 years ago," Danny reminds him. "Did she ever mention anything about Eva being framed? Or about my family having secrets?" Bill's initial professional distance melts into genuine concern as he sees Danny's distress. "Leslie was always careful with her words," he recalls, "but she did once mention that she was holding on to something that could change everything. I assumed it was related to the property case." Their conversation is cut short when Danny receives a text. Leslie has sent packages to everyone in the family. The scene transitions to Martin's congressional office, where the young politician is in the middle of a staff meeting when his assistant interrupts with an urgent courier delivery. Martin, irritated by the interruption, opens the envelope away from his team. His expression shifts from annoyance to shock as he scans Leslie's letter. He abruptly dismisses his staff and locks his office door, reading the letter again with growing horror. He immediately calls his grandfather Vernon, but the call goes to voicemail. His next call is to a private investigator. "I need everything you can find on Leslie Chambers immediately, and I need to know if she's sent similar information to anyone else." Back at the Dupree mansion, Anita and Vernon receive their envelope. Vernon opens it with Anita watching anxiously over his shoulder. As they read, the color drains from both their faces. "She can't possibly have proof," Anita whispers. Vernon's response is grim. "After all these years, does it matter? The accusation alone?" They're interrupted by the house phone ringing. It's Nicole, her voice tight with controlled emotion. "Mom, Dad, we need to talk. Now, Ted and I just got a letter from Leslie." The scene shifts to Kat in her college dorm, receiving a video call from her brother, Martin. "Don't come home this weekend," he instructs, trying to sound casual but failing. "Things are a bit complicated right now." Kat, always perceptive, challenges him. "What's really going on, Martin?" "First, Mom and Dad are fighting. Now you're telling me to stay away?" Martin's political training fails him as he struggles to find the right words, finally admitting, "Leslie Chambers has made some accusations about our family. Serious ones. I'm trying to contain it." Kat's response is immediate. "I'm coming home today." Family comes first. After ending the call, she stares thoughtfully at a family photo on her desk, focusing on her grandmother Anita's face with new curiosity. In a pivotal scene, the Dupree and Richardson families converge at the Dupree mansion, Nicole and Ted arriving separately, Danny rushing in with Bill unexpectedly in tow, Martin arriving last with a folder of hastily gathered information on Leslie. The grand living room, usually a space for family celebrations, now feels like a war room. Vernon takes charge, his senatorial authority resurfacing. "Before we discuss the contents of these letters, I need to know who has received them and who has read them." The family compares notes, realizing that Leslie has crafted slightly different letters for each recipient, revealing pieces of a larger puzzle. Danny plays Leslie's recorded confession from her phone, the room falling silent as Leslie's voice fills the space. What happened to Eva wasn't an accident or a crime of passion. It was a calculated decision made by people who valued their reputation above a human life. "I've been silent too long, protecting people who don't deserve protection." The recording ends abruptly, leaving more questions than answers. Ted, visibly agitated, breaks the silence. "This is absurd. Leslie is clearly unstable. Why are we even entertaining this?" Nicole studies her husband with new suspicion. "Your letter mentioned Eva specifically, Ted." "Mine didn't." "What exactly is your connection to her?" Before Ted can answer, Vernon intervenes. "This isn't the time for accusations among ourselves. We need to present a united front." Anita, who has been uncharacteristically quiet, finally speaks. Leslie's letter to me mentions Sarah. The name falls like a stone into still water, causing visible reactions from Vernon and, surprisingly, from Ted. Martin and Nicole exchange confused glances. They've never heard this name before. "Who is Sarah?" Nicole demands. Anita's response is measured but emotional. "Someone from a long time ago. Someone I thought was long forgotten." Vernon adds grimly, "And someone who should remain forgotten." The tension escalates when Bill, who has been observing silently, interjects. As someone with legal training, I have to point out that if there's any truth to Leslie's accusations about Eva being framed for a crime, there could be serious legal consequences. His comment draws sharp looks from Vernon and Ted. Danny defends, bringing him, "Bill has insight we might need. And right now, I think we need all the help we can get." The family discussion is interrupted by the doorbell. It's Leslie herself, arriving unannounced and uninvited. The shock of her appearance creates a momentary freeze before Vernon recovers, instructing the housekeeper to show her in. Leslie enters with quiet dignity, carrying a small leather-bound journal. "I thought you might have questions after reading my letters," she says simply. "I'm here to answer them." What follows is an explosive confrontation as Leslie methodically reveals the truth. Sarah was Vernon's mistress 30 years ago, a relationship that threatened both his marriage and his political career. When Sarah became pregnant, she was paid to leave town and never return. The official story was that she had accepted a job overseas, but according to Leslie, Sarah never left Fairmont Crest alive. Eva wasn't responsible for any crime, Leslie explains. Her calm demeanor, a stark contrast to the emotional turmoil around her. She discovered the truth about Sarah's disappearance and was silenced, framed for financial fraud, and effectively exiled from Fairmont Crest. The most shocking revelation comes when Leslie points to Ted. "And you helped cover it up, even though Sarah was your biological mother. That's why you've always been treated like family by the Duprees, long before you married Nicole." The room erupts in chaos. Nicole recoils from Ted, the betrayal now compounded by decades of lies. "You knew? All this time, you knew who your birth mother was and what happened to her?" Ted's defense is desperate. "I only learned the truth after we were married. Vernon and Anita swore me to secrecy. They said it would destroy the family, our family." Martin, the politician, immediately thinks of damage control. "We need to contain this. If this gets out." But Kat, who has arrived midway through Leslie's revelations, interrupts her brother. "Contain it? Someone died, Martin. Someone was framed. And our entire family is built on lies." Vernon attempts to regain control of the situation, his political instincts kicking in. "Leslie, whatever you think you know is distorted by time and misunderstanding. Sarah's death was an accident, a terrible, tragic accident that no one intended." Anita adds tearfully, "We've lived with this guilt for 30 years. Isn't that punishment enough?" Leslie's response is damning. "An accident you covered up. An accident that led to another innocent woman being framed. And an accident you've lied about to your own children and grandchildren." She opens the journal she brought, revealing Sarah's handwritten account of her relationship with Vernon, her pregnancy, and her fear as the situation grew increasingly threatening. "Sarah gave me this for safekeeping, the night before she left town. She knew she was in danger." The scene shifts to a flashback, the first of the series, showing a younger Vernon, Anita, and Sarah in a heated argument at the Dupree mansion 30 years ago. The flashback is brief but powerful, confirming key elements of Leslie's account while leaving the exact circumstances of Sarah's death ambiguous. Back in the present, the family is fractured by these revelations. Nicole confronts her parents and husband. "How could you all keep this from me? My husband is actually my, what? Stepbrother?" Ted tries to explain. I was adopted as an infant. I didn't know Vernon was my biological father until after we were married. By then, we already had Martin and Kat. Danny, always sensitive to being left out, realizes something. You told Ted, but not your own daughters? Why? Vernon's answer is revealing. Ted needed to know for medical reasons. And afterward, he became part of protecting the family legacy. The irony of this statement, that protecting the family legacy has now destroyed it, hangs heavily in the air. As the confrontation reaches its peak, Leslie delivers her final revelation. She has already sent copies of Sarah's journal and her own detailed account to a journalist at the Fairmont Gazette. By tomorrow, everyone will know. I'm not here to negotiate or be convinced to stay silent. I'm here because Sarah deserved better, Eva deserved better, and frankly, all of you deserve to hear the truth from someone who was there. The episode's most powerful scene comes as the family splinters in the aftermath of Leslie's departure. Nicole leaves with Kat, unable to remain under the same roof as Ted or her parents. Danny and Bill leave together, with Danny for once taking a moral stand against her family's deception. Martin stays, already working with Vernon on damage control strategies, his political instincts overriding his moral outrage. In the episode's final scenes, we see each character processing the revelations in their own way. Nicole sitting alone in her car, sobbing before composing herself and driving to a hotel. Ted returning to an empty home, looking at family photos with new eyes. Danny and Bill discussing the implications over drinks. Their shared shock creating an unexpected reconnection. Martin making urgent calls to political allies and media contacts. Kat researching Sarah online, determined to learn more about this erased woman. Vernon and Anita sitting in silent devastation in their grand home, the weight of 30 years of deception finally crushing them. The episode ends with Leslie returning to her apartment, placing Sarah's journal carefully in a safe, and looking at the old photograph one more time. It's done, she says to the image. Now, whatever happens, the truth is out there. As she speaks, her phone rings. It's an unknown number. Leslie answers cautiously, hello? A woman's voice responds, Leslie? It's Eva. I just landed at Fairmont Airport. Is it really time to come home? Leslie's smile is both sad and triumphant. Yes, Eva. It's time. Episode 47, Leslie's explosive revelations, represents a pivotal turning point in Beyond the Gates, transforming it from a conventional soap opera into a profound exploration of truth, legacy, and moral compromise. The revelations about Sarah's fate and the subsequent cover-up serve as a powerful metaphor for the show's central themes. The most prominent theme is the illusion of the perfect Black family. The Duprees have been positioned as Black royalty within Fairmont Crest, their success and dignity serving as a counterpoint to negative stereotypes. Yet episode 47 brilliantly subverts this narrative by revealing that their perfect image was built on a foundation of deception. This speaks to a deeper commentary on the pressure placed on successful Black families to be beyond reproach. To be not just good, but perfect, in a society that often scrutinizes them more harshly. Vernon and Anita's desperate efforts to protect their family's reputation at any cost reflect this burden of representation, where individual moral failings are feared not just for their personal consequences, but for how they might reinforce prejudices against an entire community. The visual symbolism throughout the episode reinforces this theme. Notice how the Dupree mansion, previously filmed in warm golden tones suggesting wealth and harmony, is now shot with harsh shadows and cold blue lighting during the confrontation scene. The grand staircase, once a symbol of the family's rise to prominence, now visually divides the characters as they take different moral positions on the revelations. Even the family portraits lining the walls take on new meaning, their perfect smiles now seeming more like masks than genuine expressions. Another significant theme is the corruption of political power. Vernon's background as a senator is not incidental to the plot, but central to it. His instinct to contain the situation rather than address it honestly reveals how political thinking can corrupt personal ethics. Martin's immediate focus on damage control rather than moral reckoning shows this corruption passing to the next generation. The parallel between Vernon's past cover up and Martin's present day instinct to manage the narrative rather than confront its implications creates a powerful commentary on how political ambition can warp personal integrity. The episode also explores the theme of buried truths and their inevitable resurrection. Leslie's character serves as the embodiment of conscience, the voice that cannot remain silent despite decades of pressure. Her line, "I've been silent too long, protecting people who don't deserve protection," resonates beyond the specific plot to touch on broader social themes about complicity and moral courage. The journal she safeguarded becomes a powerful symbol of how truth may be suppressed, but never truly destroyed. The revelation that Ted is actually Sarah and Vernon's biological son adds a Shakespearean dimension to the drama, introducing themes of unknown kinship and inadvertent taboo. While Ted and Nicole's marriage isn't technically incestuous, they aren't blood relatives, the revelation that Ted's biological father is Nicole's father creates a psychological complexity that will undoubtedly reshape their relationship. This plot development echoes classical tragedy, where hidden bloodlines often lead to moral dilemmas and identity crises. Symbolically, Eva's character, mentioned throughout the series but physically absent until the final,